Welcome to Lesson 2 of Debian Mastery, the one tool you'll touch more than any other, APT. Across a SysAdmin career, you'll run applet update, install, and upgrade thousands of times, so the goal here is simple. Master its architecture and edge cases once, and stop fighting it for years. We'll walk through 4 layers: how APT works under the hood, the production sources, list every host should ship with, pinning and holds for fleet control, and the Debian workflow that answers, is this host vulnerable, in a single command. Let's start with the architecture, because every problem you'll ever debug lives in one of these 5 layers. Sources declare where to fetch from. The index is your local catalog refreshed by apt update. The cache holds the downloaded deb files. dpkg is the low-level installer that actually unpacks them, and the result lands on disk under / etc. and USR share doc. Remember the split. apt orchestrates the flow from sources to install. dpkg just handles a single .deb. Keep that map in mind. The next slide is where you'll configure layer 1. So here's layer 1 in practice. A real production sources.list, 6 active lines that every server I run has. Main pulls everything Debian ships. Security gives you same-day CVE patches and is non-negotiable. Updates catches mid-release bug fixes, and backports is your opt-in escape hatch when stable's version of something is just too old. Note the 4 components on the main line. Main is pure free software, contrib and non-free cover drivers and codecs, and non-free firmware was split out in Debian 12. You'll want it for almost any real hardware. Save the file, run apt update, and the index layer rebuilds. Next, we'll look at the modern DAB 8.2 format that's quietly replacing this syntax. Before we get to DAB 8.2, let's settle a question that trips up almost every newcomer. Which frontend do you actually type? Debian ships 3, and they overlap heavily. The rule is simple. Use apt at the keyboard for its progress bars and readable output, but reach for apt get inside scripts, Ansible playbooks, and CI pipelines, because its output format is stable and won't break your automation between releases. apt cache stays read-only for searching and inspecting, and aptitude is really only worth pulling out when you're untangling a nasty dependency knot on testing or side. And one habit worth burning in now: always export Debian frontend non-interactive in any non-human context. With the front-end question settled, here are the 12 commands that genuinely cover 95% of your daily work. The one distinction to burn in: update refreshes your local package index. Upgrade actually installs newer versions. They are not synonyms, and update always runs first. Otherwise, you're resolving against stale metadata. Notice the trio at the bottom. Remove keeps configs, purge wipes them, auto-remove sweeps orphan dependencies. And learn apt cache policy early. When something installs the wrong version from the wrong repo, that's the command that tells you why. Once you know the daily commands, the next question is control. Telling APT to deviate from its default of always grabbing the highest priority version. 2 mechanisms here: holds and pins. A hold is a single apt-mark command that freezes a package, perfect for pausing a kernel until you've tested it. Pinning lives in apt preferences. D uses priority numbers and lets you say things like pull Nginx from backports but nothing else. Priority 700 beats stables 500, so Nginx wins while the rest of the system stays put. Holds for emergencies. Pinning for fleet uniformity. Pinning naturally leads us to backports, the most common reason you'd reach for a target release in the first place. Stable is 2 years old by design, but when you need a newer kernel for fresh hardware or a current Python for development, backports give you the official escape hatch without defecting to testing. Enable the Trixie backports line, run apt update, then install with -t Trixie backports. Only that package crosses over. Everything else stays rock solid. Rule of thumb: backports for desktops and dev boxes, never on production just to chase version numbers. With backports keeping you current, the next question an auditor will ask is whether you actually know what's vulnerable on your boxes. That's DebSeekn. It cross-references your installed packages against Debian's CVE database and tells you, with names and urgency levels, exactly what's exposed. Run it with only fix to get the actionable subset. The CVEs you can patch right now. Pipe it through WCL for monitoring, or drop it in cron daily to mail a report to root. Pair this with unattended upgrades later in Lesson 17, and you've got a real CVE workflow instead of a hopeful shrug. Knowing what's vulnerable is one half. Trusting what you install is the other. Every Debian package is GPG signed, and APT rejects anything whose signature doesn't verify. The trick is third-party repos, Docker, node source, PostgreSQL. Each ships its own key. The old apt key add dumped everything into one global trust store, meaning any compromised key could sign for any repo. The modern pattern is surgical. Drop the dearmord key into sources apt keyrings, then scope it with signed by in the source line. One key, one repo, blast radius contained. With trust handled, let's talk about what actually goes wrong in the field. 5 gotchas, each one a real outage waiting to happen. A held kernel that silently skips CVEs for months. Broken dependency chains that freeze your install. Plain HTTP sources begging for a man in the middle. The DPKG lock that won't let go. And expired third-party GPG keys throwing scary errors at every update. Each one has a clean fix, but only if you recognize the pattern fast. So let's pull it all together. 6 skills, and they're the daily rhythm now. The 5-stage architecture so you can debug at any layer, a clean sources list that covers any host in 6 lines, 12 commands burned into muscle memory, pinning and holds for surgical control, Debian on cron for CVE awareness, and modern keyring management. Never apt key add again. Next lesson, we leave APT and walk the file system itself, where Debian actually puts everything, and why etc. belongs to you. And that's Lesson 02 in the bag. Sources.list, correct, update, and upgrade fluent. Pinning understood, Debian running. 4 checkboxes that mean APT is no longer a black box. It's a system you operate. Lesson 03 picks up where this leaves off. The file system itself, the FHS, etc. alternatives. USSR local versus opt, and DPKG divert when packages collide. Run next lesson. Start when you're ready. See you in 03.